What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenna-Smith, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance behind two things. One, community, and two, competition. And there's a reason why I'm bringing these two things up on the same podcast, but you'll just have to wait for next week to be able to fully understand why these things are so important to the mission, the vision, and the purpose of the Powerhouse Mentality. But I believe that these two things are something that are so important to you becoming the best version of yourself, but so often overlooked. A lot of the times when we go into a journey to become better or to become the best version of ourselves, whether that be, your career, your fitness, your life, whatever that means to you, we don't really think about other people and how they could potentially impact our journey. We think about, all right, this is what I have to do. These are the actions that I have to take, which is the most important part, because if you don't take action, nobody can fucking take action for you. However, a lot of people mention that the journey to success is lonely, and that's absolutely correct. Because a lot of the times when you start to become more successful and when you start to level up in your life, you're forced to kind of have to let go of some relationships that you may have had in the past because those people don't understand your vision. And that's okay, because those who matter won't mind, and those who mind don't fucking matter. But there's something beautiful about community, and there's something even more incredible about competition. And a lot of the times we don't see those two things together. Now, we do a lot in fitness when it comes to think of things like CrossFit, think of things like Spartan races, running, marathons. There is competition involved because if you're going to a marathon, most of the time you want to compete with the other people around you, right? A lot of the times when people do bigger marathons, maybe they just want to compete with their past selves, but that was probably not the best example. Now, the better example would be if you're going to a CrossFit competition and you have maybe 10 other individuals that you're competing against, you want to beat those people. However, there is a community aspect to CrossFit. And that's one of the things that CrossFit has done so well, is bring community forth. But we'll get into that. I just wanted to kind of set the stage with how these two things can come together. But let's talk about them one at a time. And I want to start with community. Now, community is a sense of feeling that you're never alone. Because a lot of the times when somebody's going through a challenging time during their life, they really don't want to hear from somebody that it's going to be okay. Because that's probably usually the last thing that you want to hear when you're going through a tough time. Now, the better thing would be you're never alone. Because although they know that they will get through this, even though in the moment they might not believe it, they will. But a lot of people just want to know that they're not alone. And there are so many different research studies that have come out recently speaking about the importance of relationships for health. Loneliness has been shown to contribute to poor health and actually has been named a hidden killer because you're more likely to develop dementia, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's. There's a huge negative impact of loneliness onto your immune health, onto your endocrine health, which is your hormone health. There's more likelihood of motor decline, mortality, and even impaired learning. And one of the scariest things with this is how adolescent loneliness has increased dramatically and how that's been shown to impact health in early adulthood. So it doesn't just go past I just don't reach my goals maybe because I don't have anybody to support me and I don't feel supported because, we've all been there. But it also goes to your literal health and your quality of life. There's something incredible about community. And I think that we all have been part of some sort of a community at some point in our life. where we just feel good to be a part of something that's bigger than us. Think about how you feel when maybe you're at church, when maybe you're at an event where there's just a lot of people who are like-minded. You have comfort, you have support, and a lot of the times community gives meaning to people's lives who may not have had it or may not have found it yet or are struggling. I always like to look at the First Form community when I think about community, because I've been part of the First Form community since 2016, and they continue to show me how unbelievable it is to be with people who are like-minded and are always trying to better themselves. And every single year since 2021, I've been going to their Summer Smash event, and it's like the biggest event that they hold. And it's just everybody comes together for a few days in St. Louis at First Form HQ. We have workouts, different events, different like mingling things. And it's just unbelievable to come together and just be with people who are trying to also be the best version of themselves. And a lot of the times when you're a part of a community, you all have those commonalities. Like, you want to grow. You want to personally grow, and you're challenging each other in a positive way in order to help the other person next to you also step out of their comfort zone and become the best version of themselves. And you feel that support from the person next to you. So it's just kind of like a ripple effect. And that's how we impact the world. One person can impact the world, but that one person impacts the world through the ripple effect. They impact one person, that person impacts another, that person impacts another. And then all of a sudden, the world has changed in some aspect. And community is a beautiful way to do that. And like I said, really, the popularity of CrossFit showed how incredible community can be. I mean, if you've never been to a CrossFit gym, then you may not understand this. But if you have been to a CrossFit gym, you understand that it's one of the most welcoming environments, because CrossFit ain't easy. And every day people are going in there and fucking destroying their bodies during a workout. And they're doing it together. And there's something about doing hard shit together that allows you to become better and brings people together. And like I said, loneliness is one of the hidden killers. Relationships is an underappreciated or overlooked part of health. But relationship and spiritual health is a pillar of health that most people ignore because they're too fixated on the fitness, the nutrition, and the recovery side of things, which of course is important. But without fulfillment, it's really hard to feel good in your life. So over the last 3 to 4 years, I think we've really learned how important community is. Because when the world shut down, we were forced to be isolated and away from people. And people really started to see anxiety, depression tick up, because they weren't able to be a part of something. They weren't able to interact with other people and get support or accountability, and they started to feel lonely. And now more and more people are falling into that loneliness because it's almost alluring. When in all reality, we just need to be connected with more people who are trying to accomplish what we are trying to accomplish in order to pull out the best version of each other. And that kind of goes right into competition. All right, but to set the tone for competition, I want to talk about a paradox, and this is a phenomenon. It's called region beta paradox. You may have heard of it before, but not have known the name. So it's a phenomenon where people can recover more quickly from distressing experiences than less distressing experiences. So for example, your job sucks, you hate it, you want to leave, but it doesn't suck enough for you to take the time to look for a new job, have to make that pivot, so you're stuck. Or you have a small mess in your house and you want to live in a clean house. However, it's a small mess, so it's not uncomfortable enough for you to change it, versus having a large mess where you're going to take the time to change it, and now your house is cleaner faster and you reach the goal faster. The premise of it is that the person in the situation would benefit more from having things be worse because it would force them to take action and make a change, rather than just kind of remaining the same and settling and being stuck. A lot of people probably do this with relationships. A lot of people do this with their weight loss, with their fat loss journeys, with their fitness journeys. They're uncomfortable in their body. They want to make a change. They know that they're not healthy. They can't look at themselves in the mirror, but it's not uncomfortable enough where they're willing to make a change. So they don't, and they remain stuck for a really long time. And usually what happens is they have this really dramatic enough is enough moment where things got so bad that, say they went to the doctor for a physical and now all of a sudden they learn they have diabetes and they're wondering how the hell they let this get out of control so fast. It's because they were stuck in this paradox and they never fucking realized it. And now they're in a way worse situation, but they're in a way worse situation where they're probably going to take action to make a change. And if you don't take action at that point, then that's on you. It's always on you. It's your responsibility to take action. But the reality is a lot of people get lost in the sauce here. Most people would benefit from being in a worse situation because it would force them to make a change. And that change would make their life better more quickly than if they were to just be in a kind of shitty situation. So most people would benefit from having more challenge and more hardship in their life. Because again, it would force them to make a change to make their circumstances better. So how does this relate to competition? So if there's not enough discomfort, too many people remain the same. They stay stuck. They stay unfulfilled. They always just feel a little anxious, a little depressed, a little off, and they really can't pinpoint why. But it's because they're stuck. So how does competition actually help this? What competition does, obviously in healthy amounts, because there's an unhealthy amount of competition, but that's with everything, right? You can eat an unhealthy amount of broccoli. Broccoli's not always good if you're just eating broccoli all the fucking day long, right? Eventually, you're going to get bad effects from it. So what competition does is it forces you outside of your comfort zone. And as humans, we crave hard things. We do. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but the reality is cold plunges, ice baths have become more popular because they're tough, because it forces us into a very uncomfortable situation. Same thing with CrossFit, same thing with Spartan races, same thing with marathons, same thing with anything fitness related. It's usually not comfortable to do those really difficult feats of athletic pursuits. But a lot of people are becoming addicted to them because they love the feeling of accomplishing or overcoming a really hard situation and coming out on the other side. Life has just become far too comfortable. And sometimes somebody's going to think to themselves, no, my life isn't comfortable. But the reality is your life is pretty damn comfortable if you're listening to this podcast, because that means that you have a cell phone. That means that you have a computer. You have some form of technology where you're able to actually stream this, meaning you have Wi-Fi or data. And I bet you have a roof over your head. Is it the roof that you want? Maybe not, but you have one. Do you have a bed to sleep in? Do you have a car to sleep in? You have it way better than somebody who's fucking in Africa and or in a third world country and has to literally walk miles and miles and miles just to get clean water. So accept the fact that no matter how you feel in your current situation, you have so much to be grateful for, and life is very comfortable. Most of us can literally control the temperature in our home to make it comfortable for us. That's incredible. We can literally turn on a faucet and get clean water. We don't have to even leave our house. We can take 2 steps to the fridge and I'm sure it's filled with at least a little bit of food for you. So no matter what your circumstances are, you're living a comfortable life. Maybe you just don't appreciate it enough. And that's another story. Gratitude is power. But think about it like this. If you go to the gym and you just go and you do this workout, cool, I did it, I got it done. What if you did it with a gym partner? Like somebody who's like a good friend. Like what if you went to the gym with a friend and you guys were kind of competing a little bit? Usually, we're not going to compete, and then you do because ego. But usually when you're training with somebody else, you're more willing to push past perceived limits because you feel obligated to keep up. And you both are thinking the same thing. And if you're not, well then, I don't know. You probably are. But, I can't say absolutes because not everything is the same for everybody. But the reality is, the majority of the time, if you're working out with somebody else, whether you know them or not, you're probably more willing to push past perceived limits. Some people do a really good job at being able to push themselves on their own, and that's a skill that you have to learn. For example, I train in my garage every day by myself, and you better believe that I fucking push myself past my perceived limits. However, every time that I go to a class for CrossFit or I compete, I realize that I can always push a little bit harder. And every time I learn that, I definitely take it to my training and I apply it. Same thing think about competition with companies, right? If two companies are competing against each other with the same product or the same service, if they have another company that they're competing against, they're more likely to come out with a better quality product, a better quality service, better customer service, and better prices because they want to be able to compete with that other company and have the consumer be more willing to buy from them. So they're going to do what it takes. Competition does good for the consumer. That's why monopolies don't exist anymore. Or why they say they don't exist anymore. That's another conversation. So, like I said, in healthy levels, competition is an incredible thing and can improve self-esteem, can improve enjoyment of life, and more importantly, can motivate people to work harder towards their goals. Now, I do not like the word motivation. Motivation is a feeling, it's an emotion, it's something that you're never going to feel all the time. I spoke about this on the last podcast. However, you do feel it sometimes, and a lot of the times you feel it when you're working with other people and you're competing against other people because you're more motivated to push harder. And another thing, the last point that I'm going to make about competition is that with competition, you see what's truly possible. Because if we don't believe that it's possible, then we're not going to try as hard as we potentially could to make it happen. For example, if I told you, hey, you can buy a lottery ticket for $10,000. However, you have a 99% chance of winning. And that lottery draw is like 1 billion, we'll say. We'll put it up there. If you had $10,000, you're fucking investing in that lottery ticket. If you have a 99.9% chance of winning $1 billion, I'm pretty sure you're going to invest. Even if you don't have the $10,000, I'm sure you're going to do whatever the hell it takes to find $10,000 so you can get in that draw. Now, on the flip side, if the lottery ticket still cost $10,000 and the cash out was $1 billion, but you had 1% chance of winning, you're a lot less likely to actually invest, even if you have a slight chance of winning, because the chance is so small that you don't believe it's possible, so subconsciously, you don't even give a shit. You don't try as hard. It's the same thing with your goals. It's the same thing with anything in life. If I told you to go up to a barbell and I loaded it with 155 pounds, I didn't tell you what the weight was, and you didn't look at the weight, and I just said, hey, squat this, it's light, you're going to be like, yeah, I got this, it's light. And you're more likely to hit that weight than if I said, hey, this is a heavy weight, good luck. Now you're nervous. Now you're probably not going to hit that weight because you have that slight doubt. So subconsciously, you're like, it's really heavy, I probably won't hit it, so I'm not going to try as hard. Same thing. When you see what's possible through competition. All right? And an example that I love to use for this one is the 4-minute mile. In 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile barrier. People thought it was impossible. It was literally a barrier that they said, nobody can beat the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister, 1958, 3:59. I think it was like 3:59.4 or 0.8 or 0.6. It was really fucking close, but he beat it. 46 days later, somebody else beat him and got 3:58. A year later, 3 more people did it. Within 10 years, 336 people have done it. And as of June 2022, because this was the latest data that I could find, 1,755 runners have done it, and it's literally just a part of being an elite runner, is you just run a 4-minute mile. But it was impossible at one point, so we thought. But now, once one person did it. Everybody else saw that it was possible. And that little extra push that they believed, and they got it. So if we never compete, we never know what's truly possible. And it's important, of course, to have competition with yourself always. You versus you. Other people will push you. Other people can challenge you in order to help you grow, in order to see what's possible, in order to help you push harder towards your goals. But competition and comparison aren't the same thing. So I don't want you to get that twisted. If you're comparing yourself to other people constantly and putting yourself down because of it, that's negative. If you're comparing yourself to other people in order to become better because you see what's possible, that's positive. So comparison can be positive. However, most people use it negatively because most people, when we talk about comparison, are comparing themselves to people on social media that they have no business comparing themselves to because they have no idea what that person does on a day-to-day basis. They have no idea what that person has gone through or what that person is currently going through. All they see generally are the highlight reels, and that's what they compare themselves to. And the amount of people on social media who alter their photos, who alter their life to make it look appealing, to make you jealous, to make it more alluring, and you're comparing yourself to that, that's not fair to you. You versus you. Are you better than the person that you were last year? That's what matters. Are you progressing to become a better person than you are today? That's what matters. That matters more than anything. The amount of times that I've met people from social media who put on this big ass show on social media and then you meet them in person and they're a completely different person in all of the wrong ways, it's unbelievable. Be genuinely you, you versus you, but understand that comparison can be positive when you use it in a competitive aspect. Because when you compete, you're working and taking action to better yourself. And if you do it with community, you're bettering the people around you as well, which creates a ripple effect and makes the world a better place. So, I hope that you found this episode valuable. Please, please, please share this episode with one person if you did. If you didn't find value, then fuck me. I tried. But I love you guys. Thank you always for listening. Thank you for all the support. And go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be. And stay tuned for April 1st, where the Powerhouse Mentality community officially launches.